trait theories of leadership was uh, essentially focused on distilling a few leader traits or preferable behaviors, saying that if a leader has these behaviors or exhibit these behaviors or these traits, they would become very effective. Uh, but now we know from the experience and from our own observation that this is not so. A leader's effectiveness uh, is not just dependent on his behavior or the characteristic, but is also depending on the situations. So that is where this topic acquires important. That is, we are now talking about contingency theories. Now, what does contingency means? Contingency essentially means the context or the situation in which we are trying to understand the effectiveness of leaders. So typically, what happens is that a leader who has certain characteristics need not be effective in all situations. So depending on situations, the effectiveness of leaders varies. So this theories has helped a long way in understanding the effectiveness of leaders as well as managers. So in this context, we are trying to understand certain theories. That is, we are looking at Fiedler's model, Hersey and Blanchard situational leadership theory, and path goal theories. Each of these theories are looking at the different leadership styles and how these styles are effective in relationship to a particular context or a situation. So this is a much more a different way of thinking compared to the last two theories that we have looked at. That is the trait theories as well as the behavioral theories. Now let us see what the Fiedler model talks about. Now the Fiedler model was developed by Fred Fiedler. The contingency model was looking at the fact that effective group performance would depend on a proper match of the leader's style of interacting with followers and the degree to which the situation allows the leaders to control and influence. So it is not only the characteristics of a leader that determines its effectiveness, but there is another focus that is coming in, that is the followers. So if you look at the last two set of theories, that is trait theories and the uh, behavioral theories, there was not really mention on the followers. The theories were focusing on what the leader has in terms of the characteristics or what the leader does in terms of the behaviors. So for the first time, we are bringing in another variable, that is the followers. So what the theory says is that uh, the performance, we are dealing with performance. So the performance would depend on the leader's style as well as whether that leader's style match with the followers as well as the situations. So the assumption is that certain leadership style would be more effective in certain situations. Uh, Another assumption which I would say is a negative as far as or a disadvantage or a criticism as far as this model is concerned is that this model again is based on the assumption that the leadership style is fixed. So if you're a leader who is more task oriented, you will remain a task oriented leader no matter what the situation is or no matter what kind of followers that you get. So matching the leader to the situation or changing the situation to match the leadership style is what is required. So that is again something that is may not be practical per se, and that is one of the criticism that Fiedler model has. So let us see what this model is all about. The Fiedler's model essentially started off, or the Fiedler started off trying to measure the leadership style using a questionnaire called least preferred coworker or LPC questionnaire. So this questionnaire tried to measure the leadership style by asking the respondents to respond to 18 pairs of contrasting adjectives. So the questionnaire asked the respondents to think about a coworker whom they have least enjoyed working with, and then they had to answer these 18 pair of contrasting adjectives on the basis of that coworker. So if the leader described the least preferred coworker in relatively positive terms, in other words, a high LPC score, then he is considered to be a person who values human relationship. That is, he is more relationship oriented. So this contrasting pair of adjectives means that whether the pleasant, unpleasant, cold or warm, boring, interesting. So these kind of adjectives were used. So you are asked to, I'll repeat once again, you are asked to think about the person whom you least enjoyed working with, and then you had to answer these, respond to their questionnaire, and based on that, your leadership style was uh, identified. So if you have a high score, that means that you are a relationship oriented person, and if you have low score, then you are a task oriented leadership person, uh, or you have a task oriented leadership style. And then Fiedler try to identify the situational factors. Now, what are the possible situations that can come into the picture. So, based on his research, he has found that there are three situational factors that would affect the leadership effectiveness. One is the leader-member relations, that is the degree of confidence, trust, and the respect that the employees have for the leader. Then the task structure, the degree to which the assignments are very formalized and structured. Uh, so, if you have very high bureaucratic structure in a positive sense where the roles are clearly defined, then the task structure would be high. And then the position power, where the degree of influence that the leader have over the activities such as hiring, firing, discipline, etc. So, uh, what the what Fiedler did was that one is that he has identified the leadership structure. Second, he has also identified certain key contingency factors or situational factors that would affect the effectiveness of the leader. So then, what Fiedler then tried to do was that he tried to match the situation with the leadership style to see which leadership style is effective in the situation. So he has created, I would say that a matching format where you have the situational favorableness as highly favorable to highly unfavorable. So when does the situation becomes highly favorable? When the leader member relationships are high, when the task structure is high, and the position power of the leader is strong. To another situation where you have a very unfavorable situation where the leader member relationship is very low, task structure is also low, and the position power of the leader is very weak. That means that the leader does not have the ability to influence the hiring, firing, or discipline. So the position power of the leader is very weak. So based on this particular matching, he the Fiedler has identified that the task-oriented leaders, the leaders who have high orientation towards the work, perform better in highly favorable and highly unfavorable situations, while the leaders who are uh, relationship oriented usually performed better in moderate situations. So this is a little different from what we used to think of, that we used to think that relationship oriented leaders would perform better during unfavorable situations, but that is not what Fiedler model tells us. So the basic criticism about this particular model is that this model assumes that the leader style is inflexible. So if you are a relationship oriented leader, then you would remain a relationship oriented leader irrespective of the situation. So if you are if the company is in a highly unfavorable situation, then you have to change the leader because the leader is unable to change his style. So that is something which was not accepted by practitioners and researchers. That is basically what the Fiedler model is all about. But there are a lot of research tested which says that the model has considerable evidence, in terms of the effectiveness. So, as management students, please understand that being a task oriented is something that which you will be valued as a style, because you have to develop an orientation towards task. Relationship orientation is not the only thing, although it looks very uh, glamorous, or it looks uh, pretty good or pretty nice to be very nice to people. It is not that useful when you are facing a very unfavorable situation. The next contingency theory that we are going to talk about is the situational leadership theory. Now, situational leadership theory says that successful leadership is achieved in selecting the right leadership style, which is dependent on the another factor which is called as the readiness. Now we are actually bringing in a new term into the whole equation. So what do you mean by readiness? So see, again, one of the key contribution of this theory is that it again brings in some focus into the followers. Now what this theory says is that a leader's effectiveness will depend a lot on whether the follower is ready to follow the leader. The earlier theories were not really focused on what the follower thinks or what the followers want. So, what do you mean by readiness? Readiness is the extent to which people have the ability and willingness to accomplish a specific task. So, your followers' readiness means that the follower is willing to accomplish a particular task. Acceptance means, again, another factor. The leader should be accepted by the followers. So leadership effectiveness depends on whether the follower accepts or rejects a leader. So these are, again, more clarity has come into the contingency factors or situational factors. So this is something which is built on the earlier theories. It is not that it is totally different from trait theory or behavioral theory. Trait theories talked about certain characteristics of a leader. Behavioral theories talked about the behaviors that leaders exhibit. We have seen the different dimensions of behavior. But along with that, if you want to be effective, it also has to match. One is the situations, the task structure, which we have seen, the leader member relations, and the position power. This theory again builds on that, saying that that's those situational factors are important. Another set of situational factors which are important is the readiness of your followers, whether your followers accept you as a leader or not. Second is that whether they are willing to do the work which they expect to do. So, in certain cases, the leaders should concede their control over the followers, depending on how competent the followers are, and also uh, how they are ready to their level of competence. So, what this theory, the SLT theory, which is a very popular theory, says is that based on the readiness of the followers, there are different leadership styles. So a leader needs to be flexible uh, now in matching the style to the readiness and acceptance of the followers. So yeah, the researchers Hersey and Blanchard has identified four leadership styles. One is telling. Telling is high task, low relationship leadership, very focused on the task. Selling is high task, high relationship leadership. Participating is low task, high relationship, and delegating is low task, low relationship. So now we have seen this in the last few theories. Now the concern for people and concern for production. Telling is, again, you are very much task oriented, and you are not really relationship oriented. Uh, Selling is that it's both high. You want the task to get done by your followers, but you will also like to maintain good relationships. So essentially, you are in a selling mode. Participating is low task and higher relationship. The focus is more on getting them to participate in the whole process. And delegating is where there is a low task and low relationship leadership. So he has also identified the four stages of follower readiness. Now, what are those follower readiness? R1 talks about followers who are unable and unwilling, people who are not accepting your leadership and who are unwilling to uh, take the task. So people who are both unable and unwilling to take the responsibility for doing something. R2 are those followers who are unable but willing, because that is where they are not competent enough. Followers are motivated but they lack appropriate skills. R3 are followers who are uh, competent, that is, who are able but they are unwilling to do what the leaders want. So they don't want to do something. So that is basically what R3 is all about. R4 are the type of followers who are able and willing. So that is ideal type of followers that we would like to have. So situational leadership uh, theory says is, what the situational leadership theory says is that based on these four leadership for follower readiness, so for four types of followers, you have to match your leadership style. So this is a much more refined version of the featless model that we have seen. So when you are facing with a set of followers who are unable and unwilling, what would be the type of leadership style that you have to adopt? What the SLT says is that the R1 set of followers, the leader would need to use the telling style. They have to uh, give clear and specific direction to the followers, because the followers are unable, there is a lack of competency, so they would like to get more direction, and they also have to be forced in a way, coaxed to do the task. For R2, that is unable and unwilling, the leaders need to use the selling style, because they have to be that there is a lack of ability of the leader. So if you are able to convince the followers, because see here what happens is that leaders, the followers are willing but unable. So if you can get the buy-in of the followers, they would compensate for their lack of competence, and they may put in a lot of efforts to become competent and do the task. For the R3 set of followers who are able and unwilling, the leaders need to use the participative style to get their support, because they are able but unwilling. So you need to get their support. So a participative style would be ideal. And for R4, the followers who are able and willing, the leader should use the delegating style. So uh, so now this the contribution of this theory is that it acknowledges uh, the fact that the followers are very very important. So it is not just that the leader is autocratic or democratic is going to define whether the work is going to be done effectively. The followers should be ready. The followers also should be accepting the leadership of the manager or the leader. So that is basically what the contribution of Hersey and Blanchard leadership theory. Next set of theories is the path goal model. The path goal model states that it is the job of a leader to assist his followers to attain their goals and provide direction and support to ensure that their goals are compatible with organizational goals. So the idea here is that uh, no, the individual uh, goal of an employee, his career ambitions or his personal goals, should be aligned with the organizational goals, and the leader should ensure or facilitate uh, the followers in such a manner that the accomplishment of their goals would eventually lead to the accomplishment of the organizational goals. So here the path goal model again goes a little bit forward in understanding the fact that a follower is an individual. That individual has their own ambitions and aspirations, and the leader should be empathetic to their the ambitions and the aspirations of the followers, and should align the organizational goals in such a manner that the followers, while they attain their personal goals, would in turn ensure that the organizational goals are achieved. So the leaders again assume the different leadership style at different times depending on the situation. So again, it's a same concept of a directive leader, a supportive, participative, and achievement-oriented leader. So in this path goal model, uh, uh, Pathgold model again was proposed by Robert House. So he has identified two contingency factors. One contingency factor is related to one set of contingency factors related to the environment. So it is again the task structure, how structured the task is, whether there is a formal authority system, and the nature of the work group. These are the environmental contingency factors, and you have the subordinate contingency factors like the locus of control of the employee, their experience, the ability, and the competence. You can see that, see, over a period of time, the leadership theories are evolving. New variables are coming in. It is not just the behavior, it is not just the readiness of the followers, it is also about the internal factors that affect the followers effectiveness. See, ultimately, management is getting things done through people. It's a basic definition. It is the people who are going to do the work. So unless you understand their own uh, you know the factors which affect them, you will not be able to manage or to lead properly. So you have a leader behavior, and then you have the outcomes, and these two situation, these two factors, one is external and another is yeah, the internal factors. They moderate or they affect the outcome, the leadership behavior and the outcome. So here again, here again, the path goal theory or suggests that directive leadership ensure greater satisfaction when the situation is very ambiguous. That is, no one is very sure about where the situation is heading. So then the leader should tell the subordinates or the followers what to do. So a directive leadership would add a lot of value. When the supporters do not know what to do. And supportive leadership results in high employee performance when the tasks are very structured. So everyone knows what is expected to do. The work is very structured. The roles are very clear. The goals are clear. There is no ambiguity. So in those cases, the leader should be more supportive in nature. So you don't need to tell exactly what the employee has to do. You just have to support and make sure that the follower or the employee is able to do what is expected to do. So when there is a more structure, there is more formal authority, then the leader should not go in for a directive behavior. He should be more supportive in nature. And when the subordinates are very much able, very competent, then you should delegate work more to the subordinates. You should participate them in the decision making process. So, and again, when you are dealing with employees who are internally motivated, who are very much competent and self-assured, then they are more comfortable with leaders who are participative in nature. While employees who have high external locus of control, where are more satisfied with leaders who are having a directive style. The basic idea is that as a leader, for the management students, identify what is your dominant leadership behavior. At the same time, you also have to look at what are the factors that are going to come in between uh, your behavior and your the outcome that you expect out of the behavior. And you should also be flexible enough. See, earlier theories were saying that, again, behavioral theories were saying that leadership behaviors were essentially static. That is, if you are an autocratic leader, you will remain autocratic all throughout. But the contingency theories, like a path goal theory and the SLT theory, has stated, or at least they have suggested, that it is possible for leaders to be flexible in their style, and it is essential for them to be flexible in their style. So even if you are a dominant, your dominant leadership style is directive. If you are dealing with a group of employees who are very competent, who have internal motivation, internal locus of control, you should change your style to be a more participative leader, or sometimes you should have to just give the task and then follow a laissez-faire kind of a leadership. So this is basically what the contingency theories talked about. The next set of uh, presentation slides are on contemporary views of leadership. Now, one set of leadership style is called as the transactional leadership. So it's a modern view of leadership. So what do transactional leaders do? Now, these are the leaders who guide and motivate their followers in the direction of an established goal by clarifying the task and role requirement. So in real life, you will see a lot of managers exhibiting transactional leadership, who whose main focus is to make sure that the followers get the idea about what needs to be done, what are the requirements for the task, how their performance will be measured, and they will make sure that the work is done. So essentially, it is getting things done. You guide and motivate the followers to do the task. On the other hand, another concept of leadership is the transformational leadership, where the leaders inspire the followers to transcend their own self-interest for the good of the organization. So there it is a leap beyond just the transaction, where there is a lot of inspiration that is happening. The followers are inspired to go beyond, put in more than what they are expected to. So it's a leap forward. So you can see that many organizations are getting transformed through transformational leadership. Leaders like Jack Welch of GE transformed an organization and put that organization into a higher growth trajectory. So you have these different views of leadership. So there is considerable evidence that transformational leadership is a superior style of leadership, or it's a superior view of leadership than just the transactional leadership. Another set of views with regard to leadership is charismatic leadership. Now, charismatic leadership again focuses on the personal characteristics of the leader. So again, Jeff Bezos of Amazon is usually cited in textbook as a very charismatic leader. Again, Richard Branson of Virgin Group is again a charismatic leader. Now, they are very enthusiastic, self-confident leaders whose personality traits and actions influence the people to behave in a certain manner. So you get really impressed by the personal characteristic of the leader, and then you become motivated to be his followers and do what the leader expects you to do. Visionary leadership, on the other hand, again, there is a lot of charisma in visionary leaders, but essentially they are able to provide a big vision for the organization. So a leader who creates and articulates a realistic, credible, and attractive vision of the future that improves on the present situation. So you are able to give a long-term view, or a long-term picture, or a long-term goal to the company, and you are able to sell that to your followers. So the visionary leaders are able to explain the vision to others. Uh, through the behavior and not just the talking part, and they're able to apply this vision to different leadership contexts. So you can see our former president, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, is a visionary leader. So wherever he goes, he presents a vision, the future of India, which inspires us to probably work harder and contribute more. What essentially this concept says is that there are a lot of different views of leadership. There is no clear standard formula where you apply it and you get an effective leader. There are a lot of ways in which you can influence people. There are a lot of ways in which you can get the work done. There is no best way. In fact, you have to identify your own way of leading and influencing uh, your followers to achieve your result. Uh, Increasingly, you can see that the workplace is oriented towards teams. So rather than an individual or one or two people doing the job, now the emphasis is more on uh, group work, emphasis more on teams working together to achieve objectives. In that scenario, team leadership becomes very important. So what are the things that a team leader should do? You are heading a team. One is that you are one of the role that you have to play is the role of a coach. Now you have to make sure that your followers are capable. You coach them. You are responsible to liaison with the external constituencies like your clients, your suppliers, your service providers. You are should take up the role of a troubleshooter and a conflict manager. So when you are looking yourself as a person who is leading a team, then you have to do these specific functions to make sure that the team is effective. So now this particular concept is important when you are not all even if you are not a high ranking executive in an organization. This is very important when you are handling even a smaller team on a small project. Even though you may not have a authority, you may have to perform these roles. So this I would say that is leadership through influencing without authority rather than influencing with authority. So this is basically what the leadership theories has been telling us. So on conclusion, I would like to say that now over a period of time, the understanding of leadership, understanding of leaders have uh, uh, increased, but still there are no clear formulas as to uh, who is a good leader and what makes a good leader and what behaviors is appropriate. Uh, that is what management is all about. You will not get a very concrete answer for the solution. You'll have to find your own style. You'll have to find your own way of handling your followers, because individuals are different. And when these different individuals are coming together, then you are creating a totally a new set of behaviors. So having a fixed style and trying to match it to the situation no longer works. You have to develop your own methods and ways of adapting your style to the situations, understanding the situation, understanding your own dominant style, then adapting that to the situation. But essentially, your task is to get your work done. So that is the whole lecture is all about. And again, I like to acknowledge the source textbook which I have used for this lecture series. So thank you for watching. I hope you had got some insights about the concept of managers as leaders. Thank you.